details on a series of lucrative deals he's negotiated that you can take part in. In a few moments, I'm going to be joined by Rick Rule. Rick is coming to us from California, and he's getting set up in a studio right now. On Wall Street, Rick has achieved legendary status, just like George Soros and Warren Buffett, and he's earned the reputation of having the Midas touch. And that's because Rick has successfully predicted every bull market in modern history for gold, silver, platinum, oil, you name it. And this has made him one of the wealthiest investors of all time. For the last decade, my focus has been on providing research and market intelligence to the major players on Wall Street: investment banks, private equity firms, energy and resource explorers, the big institutional investors. So I've had the pleasure of getting to know Rick really well. And I'm proud to call him not just an industry colleague, but a friend. So a few months ago, Rick and I were having dinner, and we're catching up, talking about our families, talking shop, and then he drops this absolute bombshell on me. He tells me he's begun quietly investing tens of millions of dollars of his own money into a series of truly amazing deals. He'd been negotiating special buy-ins with a carefully chosen selection of tiny resource firms, and together, they were locking up precious metal deposits and energy discoveries in every corner of the globe, all for pennies on the dollar. So the next day, when I started combing through each of these deals, I was blown away. And I called Rick with a request that I thought he'd turn down instantly. I asked him if there was any room left in 7 of these deals, and whether it was yes. To my knowledge, an opportunity like this has never been offered before. So in this presentation, Rick and I are going to take you on an extraordinary treasure hunt around the world to explore each of these deals, from Australia to Africa, Iceland, South America, Canada, and even right here in the United States. You're going to see gold and silver fields that have been unearthed in ancient lands, oil, uranium, and platinum deposits that could be worth hundreds of billions of dollars. But what has me the most excited about these deals is that Rick is partnering with the same group of billionaires and resource legends who helped him initially build his vast fortune. I'm talking about serially successful entrepreneurs like Bob Quartermain. Previously, Rick provided financial backing for Bob's tiny mining startup, Silver Standard. Rick negotiated shares in the company for 72 cents apiece, and Silver Standard then shot up to $45, handing him a 6,100% windfall. Rick is also partnering once again with Ross Beaty. They've previously worked together on 2 incredibly successful ventures. With Beaty's Pan American Silver, Rick negotiated a buy-in at 50 cents a share and cashed out when the stock soared to over $40. That was a 7,900% payday. Then, with Beaty's Lumina Copper, Rick locked in his shares at $2 apiece, and they skyrocketed to $160. Again, Rick cleared 7,900% with that deal. David Lowell is another one of Rick Rule's partners. They first worked together with David's exploration firm Arequipa Resources. That deal involved a massive gold field in an unexplored mineralized zone in Peru. Rick negotiated a buy-in at 28 cents a share, and 19 months later, Barrick Gold, the largest gold company in the world, snapped up Arequipa for about $30 a share. And that put a 10,614% winner up on the board. Had you been part of that deal when Rick got in, you could have turned a $10,000 investment into $1,071,428 in only 19 months. Rick is also once again partnering with the billionaire Lundin family. In the past, Rick secured shares in the Lundin's company, International Uranium, for about 30 cents apiece, and he cashed out at $8 for a 2,500% return. Rick also partnered with the Lundins in Tenke Mining, which controlled a very promising copper claim in the Congo. He negotiated a buy-in at 20 cents a share, and Tenke Mining eventually hit over $15, making Rick 7,400%. Rick is also partnering once again with John Borshoff. Previously, they were involved in one of the greatest natural resource successes of all time, a small uranium miner from Australia called Paladin Energy. That stock exploded from well under a penny a share to $10. When the smoke had cleared, Rick was sitting on a 99,900% windfall. Let me repeat that, 99,900%. Let's crunch the numbers. If you had secured just $1,000 stakes in Silver Standard, Lumina Copper, Paladin Energy, each of these 7 deals, you could have cashed out with over $1.43 million. A $5,000 investment could have grown to over $7.15 million, and $10,000, over $14.3 million. Are opportunities like this rare? You bet. Few investors will ever live to see profits like this. And that's because these are the types of deals that mint millionaires, even billionaires. And now Rick Rule is partnering with these same serially successful entrepreneurs again. He's negotiated incredible buy-ins for these deals. He's added them to his personal portfolio. And this time, you're going to have the opportunity to tag along. Of course, nothing's guaranteed, However, my projections indicate that each of these deals has the potential to return 10 times your money, 20 times your money, 50 times your money, even 100 times your money. So you're going to want to pay close attention to everything you're about to hear. And considering some of these stocks are trading for pennies a share, you don't have to invest much more than pocket change to potentially make an absolute fortune. By my estimates, if you were to lock up $1,000 stakes in each of these deals, you could cash out with a $492,120 windfall. So let's not waste another moment. Deal number one we call Paladin 2.0. This is a second chance to relive one of the most successful stock plays of the last 100 years. It's a virtual carbon copy of Rick's investment in Paladin that returned 99,900%, right down to the same asset, the same market conditions, the same management team, and this new and very tiny miner was even recently priced at the same penny a share. So I'm going to pass the baton to Rick right now and let him tell you about this.
One thing I look for is a commodity where demand for the commodity is assured over time, but where it's being sold in the market for less than the cost to produce it. That means that either the price of the commodity goes up, or society is missing an essential component of the things that we need to live. Uranium is one such example. Although most people don't like the idea of uranium, everybody that you know likes the idea that the lights will go on when you flip the switch to enter a room. 3 times in my career, the uranium price has gone up by 500 or 600%. And 3 times in my career, the uranium price has crashed by 60 or 70%. What does that mean? It means that you buy uranium when it's out of favor and you sell it when it returns to favor. Cameco, the largest producer of uranium in the world, believes that it takes $60 a pound to incent current levels of production worldwide, yet uranium sells for $22 a pound. That means that the industry makes the stuff for $60 a pound, sells it for $22 a pound, loses an enormous amount of money on an ongoing basis. Must the uranium price go up? I think so. Uranium produces 16% of the base load power for the United States. What it says to you is that if the price of uranium doesn't go up, the lights will go off, which means, of course, that the uranium price will go up. Recently, we bought 15% of a very small Australian company engaged in the exploration and development of uranium assets worldwide. The management team's prior success occurred in Africa, and this opportunity occurs in Africa as well. These deposits are seldom in easy places, seldom in convenient places, seldom in places that make you feel secure, particularly in places like Botswana, places like Namibia, places like Chad, places like Niger. But the big unanswered question here is simply how large are the deposits that we are able to acquire very, very, very cheaply. These are deposits that make absolutely no money at $20 or $22 a pound uranium, but projects that would probably make an awful lot of money at $60 a pound, where we think the price of uranium must go to. But the real attraction of us to this company is that we have had so much success with the management team in the past. In a situation in the year 2000, when the uranium market was very similar to the uranium market that exists today, I backed this management team in a prior effort, and the results were truly spectacular. We financed them at 10 cents Australian per share, and we were rewarded for our genius by seeing the share price decline from 10 cents to 1 penny. We had occasion, obviously, to rethink the investment. We revisited our premises, and we determined that in fact we were correct, and actually bought more at a penny. 4 years later, the price of that initial effort soared to as high as $10. We believe that past is prologue. The market is in the same place as it was in 2000. This team succeeded for us before, spectacularly, from 10 cents to $10, and we hope that they will be able to repeat that magic for us again. Something that you should know in this opportunity and many more that we will discuss: this is a very, very small company. They are early on what we hope is the path to success. That means 2 things. It means, first of all, that the speculation is highly risky. Don't use money that you couldn't afford to lose most of. Also, it's indicative to note that their prior success started with us at a $2 million market cap before ending up with a market capitalization in excess of $5 billion.
Okay, today over 440 nuclear power reactors operate in 31 countries. But nearly 600 additional reactors could soon come online in places like China, South Korea, Russia, and Japan. So you'd have to be blind not to see a historic bull run in uranium right around the corner. Yet, it was recently trading for just $22 a pound. But listen to this. According to Cameco, the largest producer of uranium, that price is unsustainable. As Rick just said, in order to incentivize miners to produce enough to meet global demand, it needs to reach $60 a pound. And that means uranium prices have to soar at least 172%, otherwise the lights are going to go out all over the world. Rick and I believe the uranium market is in a very similar place to where it was right around the millennium. It was a period where shrewd investors had the chance to become filthy rich from uranium mining stocks of all shapes and sizes. Big companies like Cameco rose 20-fold. Areva climbed 1,102%. Energy Resources went up 17-fold. And smaller players took off like rocket ships. Energy Fuels went up 90-fold. And Denison Mines soared 9,346%. But at 99,900%, Rick's windfall from Paladin was in a class of its own. So the question is, what made that deal special? And here's the answer. According to Rick, Paladin had a secret weapon. They acquired a proprietary database from a German geological firm that had spent millions of dollars and decades exploring for uranium assets throughout the world. This helped Paladin identify and amass over 530 million pounds of the highest quality uranium from 21 deposits in 5 countries, all for pennies on the dollar. And here's a very important piece of intel Rick disclosed to me when I was vetting this new deal. This tiny miner now owns Paladin's database, and they're using it to acquire millions of tons of the highest quality uranium in the world at rock-bottom prices. Take just one of those assets, a mine in Namibia. It holds an estimated 23.3 million pounds of uranium. And even at today's low prices, this Namibian mine could be sitting on $570 million worth of uranium. That one discovery alone is worth 15 times more than this miner's current $36 million market cap. Plus, this company has also acquired another deposit that's potentially sitting on an additional $1.14 billion worth of uranium. Again, that's at today's depressed prices. Just these 2 properties equate to $1.7 billion in potential assets, which is 47 times the company's current $36 million valuation. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Rick and I expect uranium prices to rise to a bare minimum of $60 a pound. And when that happens, the assets from this miner's 2 properties could be worth $4.16 billion. That's 115 times greater than the company's current valuation. So what we have with this deal is a natural resource that basic economics dictates must rise, a tiny miner that now controls 2 of the most exciting uranium deposits on the planet. It has plans to acquire more assets for pennies on the dollar, and it is run by a serially successful entrepreneur who previously delivered Rick Rule a 99,900% windfall. And plus, like before, this deal allows investors to lock up shares for pennies apiece. There are no guarantees, of course, but if this little company can replicate 1/5 of Paladin's payday, you could take a single $100 bill and turn it into $20,000. Up your stake to $1,000 and you could potentially cash out with $200,000. We'll talk about this deal a bit further ahead, but you might find the next stop on this treasure hunt to be even more interesting. I'm calling deal number 2 the Kenyan Blue Whale. Rick, you can take it from here.
I'm particularly comfortable investing with people who have made myself and my clients a lot of money in the past. And probably my favorite partners are the Lundin family, originally Swedish, now living in Switzerland, I think as a consequence of the tax on their successes over time. I've done business with the Lundin family since 1975, when the scion of the clan, Adolf Lundin, was involved in gold mining in the western U.S., and I was at the ripe old age of 23. And I'm delighted to say that I've done business with that family for 40 years, through 3 generations. The opportunity that I'd like to talk about is an oil and gas opportunity, which is important because the Lundin family have been successful in the oil and gas business since the 1970s, and successful in frontier exploration. They have made money by discovering big deposits and selling them in places as diverse as Ras Al Khaimah, Sudan, and Colombia. And the opportunity that we're currently involved with them in is in Kenya, in a brand new basin. A basin that has been completely unexplored by modern technology ever until the Lundins drilled a basin opening discovery. This discovery, by the way, is quite a discovery. It looks like it will exceed 1 billion barrels of oil, which in the parlance of the oil business makes it a blue whale scale discovery, one of those very, very, very rare beasts that occurs perhaps once in a decade to a skilled exploration team. Remember that the worldwide clearing price for oil, the price that's necessary to maintain current production at world levels, is $65, and the price of oil is below $60 a barrel. My own supposition is that if the oil price doesn't go up to $65 a barrel, that your car won't run in 6 years because there won't be any oil to run it with. And a billion-barrel discovery in Kenya will ultimately be moved to the coast, we believe, in 3 years. So part of the opportunity now is understanding the fact that the infrastructure will be built and the oil price will go up. That billion barrels has already been discovered. This is a theme that's worked for me time and again in my career. Buying very large deposits that are out of favor in the market because the price of the commodity is less than the cost of production, and then waiting for the inevitable increase in the rise of the product in a tier 1 deposit with good people. And make no mistakes, the Lundins meet the serially successful test. I remember back in 1980, a discovery in something called International Petroleum that took the stock from 30 cents to a buyout at $8 a share. I remember another success of theirs, improbably called Tanganyika Oil, which increased from 40 cents a share to an ultimate takeout in excess of $20 a share. Will past be prologue? I don't know. What I do know is that I'm working with a billion-barrel discovery, and I'm working with a team of entrepreneurs, a family that I have been successful with going all the way back to 1975. That's as good as it gets as far as I'm concerned.
So you can see Rick is very, very excited about this deal, and so am I. After all, as he mentioned, the Lundin family has previously handed Rick windfalls of 2,567% and 4,900%. But I think this new discovery could be much bigger, and here's why. Since 2000, by my math, there have been a total of 8 blue whale discoveries made in the entire world, and this one could be number 9. And for the most part, the others are controlled by energy behemoths. For instance, the Jupiter, Sugarloaf, and Lula oil fields in Brazil are under Petrobras control. And Petrobras is a state-run company. In Kazakhstan, the partners in the Kashagan oil field include Royal Dutch Shell, Exxon, Total, and China National Petroleum Corporation. That's 4 of the biggest companies in the world sharing one blue whale discovery. And then there's the Thunder Horse field in the Gulf of Mexico. That one's operated by BP. BP's market cap is around $109 billion. So in other words, those guys are all big. So when you hear this, it's going to blow your mind. The market cap of the exploration company that controls this Kenyan blue whale is around $1 billion, and shares are trading for about $2 a piece. In recent history, a small energy player controlling an oil field of this size is unprecedented. It sits on a rift over 740,000 square kilometers. And for perspective, that's an area that's 8 times bigger than the entire United Arab Emirates. And when Rick called this a billion-barrel discovery, he was being conservative. That's just the current estimate from tapping a tiny western portion of the district. So the treasure hunt has just begun here. There are still 6 distinct basins to explore. And according to Rick, each has 30 to 35 seismically defined exploration targets. Altogether, that takes this 1 billion barrel discovery up to a potential 11 billion barrels. That's a mother lode. At today's market price for oil, it could be worth $605 billion or more. In other words, the Kenyan blue whale discovery could be worth 605 times more than the company's current market cap. That's a headline-grabbing number. But there's another critical part of this deal that makes it, in my opinion, the greatest oil investment I've seen in a very long time. And here it is. Investors who are buying into this discovery, they aren't securing their stakes based on oil's current market price. Instead, this deal has factored in a deep discount on this oil. It's being calculated at an exploration value of just $4 a barrel. So you might be asking, why so cheap? It's because this field is landlocked in Central Africa. It's surrounded by over 1,000 miles of uninhabitable desert, flat arid plains, steep cliffs, and slopes that separate it from coastal ports. But Rick's partners in this deal, the billionaire Lundin family, are very shrewd. They're using their connections to ensure the Kenyan blue whale field enriches everybody involved in this deal. All they needed to do was to find a way to get their oil to the coast, and it would instantly be priced at market rates. Well, fortune smiles on them, and that's not a coincidence. The Kenyan government is paying for the construction of a pipeline to bring this company's oil to market. Think about how incredible that is. This exploration company gets what amounts to an exclusive direct line to oil tankers at Kenya's ports, and they won't have to pay a dime to build it. This is one of the many benefits of partnering with serially successful entrepreneurs like the Lundins. They wield enough influence to force governments to move heaven and earth for them, and through this deal, you, along with Rick, get the chance to secure stakes in this tiny company while its oil is priced at $4 a barrel and cash in big once the pipeline is built. Here's how big. $55 oil flowing to market could drive the value of this little stock from $1.65 to $19.34 a share. That's a potential gain of 1,072%. Plus, this company has zero debt on its books and over $400 million in cash. Add in the Kenyan government footing the bill for this pipeline, and the upside could be explosive. Now let's think a little less conservative. Again, when all is said and done, we have the potential for 11 billion barrels of oil. For the sake of discussion, let's assume 4 billion turn out to be proven. I estimate that would place its share price at $76.51. That'd give you a shot at a 4,577% windfall. Well, these first two deals alone could make you very rich. Together, they have the potential to turn every $1,000 invested into $246,770, $5,000 into $1.23 million, and $10,000 into $2.46 million. Now again, each of these deals is highly speculative. However, I've independently vetted all 7 of them. They're all in Rick's personal portfolio, and he's putting his own money on the line. So we'll circle back to the Kenyan Blue Whale deal in a bit. Next up, though, we want to give you a front row seat to deal number 3, the Tier 1 trifecta. Rick's going to set this one up for us.
The next opportunity is probably one of the greatest contrarian speculations I've ever made in my life. Contrarian in the sense that it really defines political risk. The next company is involved in 2 countries, South Africa, which has its challenges, and Congo, which in fact defines challenges. The truth is, however, that this company controls 3 world-class Tier 1 deposits. And Tier 1 deposits always get financed, always get produced, irrespective of political risk. Tier 1 deposits make hundreds of millions of dollars a year for 3 decades or 4 decades. The consequence of that is that they are highly sought after by very large mining companies. And companies that are successful developing them are almost always acquired at premiums. So let's talk about the opportunity in detail. The first opportunity is in South Africa, where the company has made what I think is the most important platinum and palladium discovery made in the world in the last 100 years. The attraction of the deposit that has been discovered by this company is that it will be able to be mined by very efficient, non-labor intensive methods. We believe it will be the lowest cost platinum and palladium producer in the world, and we believe that it will produce for 3 or 4 decades. Will the platinum and palladium price go up? Absolutely. Platinum and palladium are necessary in catalytic converters for automobiles. The political trade-off is platinum versus smog. Nobody sees young kids wandering around demonstrating for more smog, more smog, more smog. Most people don't realize it takes $125 worth of platinum in a catalytic converter to give us the air quality that we enjoy in the Western world. That means that if the price of platinum and palladium were to double, it would cost you $250, a $125 premium, to sell a $30,000 car. What that means is that there's an awful lot of price elasticity. The price can double and have absolutely no impact on demand whatsoever. Moving on, the company has a copper deposit, which once again is probably the most important copper deposit discovered in the world in the last 30 years. It was discovered as an extension of the Zambian Katanga copper belt, the most important copper producing province in the world. It was discovered because the deposit didn't outcrop. It was under sand cover. What the company did was very intelligent. They just projected an existing geological trend, looked undercover, and there, because of a lack of exploration in Congo, was the biggest copper deposit in the world, and by the way, the highest grade copper deposit in the world, completely undiscovered after 100 years of mining activity in country. This company is run by the most successful mining entrepreneur of my generation, a person who has been responsible for 5 prior exploration successes with sales to majors. And he has attracted fantastic financial partners. In South Africa, his partners are a consortium of Japanese companies, including the government of Japan, who understand that platinum and palladium supplies are necessary for the Japanese automobile industry. In Congo, his partner is the largest non-ferrous metals mining company in China. So the question becomes, can this gentleman, who has been serially successful for 30 years with his partners, which include the government of Japan and a parastatal Chinese copper company overcome the political risks in Congo and South Africa. When I look at the financial resources and the needs of the nation of Japan and the financial resources and the needs of the nation in China, my own personal belief is that the answer is yes. And if the answer is yes, it is almost certain that this company will be acquired by one of the largest mining companies in the world. Just to put the Congo opportunity in perspective, the last time that I was deeply involved in a large Congo copper opportunity was in the 1990s, when a small company that I had the good fortune to own a lot of went from 19 cents to a $16 buyout.
Rick nailed it when he said Tier 1 deposits are very rare. If a tiny miner controls just a single Tier 1 deposit, it can cause major companies to fight each other to acquire it. They'll write essentially a blank check forking over ridiculous premiums. And over the years, Rick has made a fortune from these types of deals. Take International Uranium Corporation. When Denison Mines quickly snatched them up, it made Rick 2,500%. Reservoir Minerals, 8,300%, and Arequipa Resources, 10,600%. Each buyout was the result of a Tier 1 deposit for a highly coveted natural resource that was dramatically underpriced when Rick negotiated his buy-in. This deal can get you into 3 Tier 1 deposits simultaneously. First, let's talk a little bit more about the copper deposit. You'd be hard-pressed to find a richer mining region on the planet than the Katanga Copper Belt in southern Congo. It's basically bursting out of the ground there. The miner Rick is backing in this area controls a Tier 1 deposit with 9.6 billion pounds of copper. And if you're saying to yourself, why should I be excited about copper, even 9.6 billion pounds of it? Well, here's why. Take a look at this chart. What it shows you is that Rick's Congo mine is producing copper for $1.10 per pound less than its competition. And there's only one way to describe that, and that's a game changer. That's more than $10 billion in savings that goes right to bottom line profits. Do you think major copper producers would be thrilled to get their hands on that property? Of course they would. Rick called me when he was in the Congo touring this discovery with some of the locals. The official language down there is French, but Rick doesn't speak it. But as he told me, that doesn't matter because the language of greed is universal. He's right. And everybody's dancing in the streets there over this deposit. It's the same story with the company's massive platinum discovery in South Africa. It's in an area known as the Bushveld Complex. Here's a map of this Tier 1 deposit. Now let's focus on the small area marked in blue. It contains 153 million ounces of platinum. At today's prices, the value of this treasure trove is nearly unfathomable, $145 billion. There's so much platinum in the ground here, if this miner worked around the clock, day and night to extract it, it would take 190 years. So this deposit is going to produce for a very long time. But here's where it gets even crazier. Let's take another look at this map, specifically the area marked in yellow. That represents 48 square kilometers of completely unexplored territory. The surrounding region is one of the most platinum-rich on the planet. If you were blindfolded, then tossed a shovel in the ground anywhere around there and started digging, the chances are pretty good you'll hit pay dirt. So I'd be willing to bet the farm, everything, that there are numerous platinum deposits just waiting to be found in those 48 square kilometers. Long story short, I think it's safe to say this miner controls what could become one of the biggest platinum discoveries not just in the world today, but of all time. And just like with their copper deposit, they can mine their platinum at a deep discount. This Tier 1 platinum deposit is capable of producing nearly 785,000 ounces a year, and for less than half the cost of what competing mines have to pay. That's another $470 million you can add directly to the bottom line each and every year. Over 5 years, you're looking at an extra $2.3 billion in savings, and over 20 years, an extra $9.4 billion. That's a huge advantage over every other platinum producer I've come across. And plus, as a kicker, and Rick didn't reveal this, but I will, the company also retains a 68% ownership in a Tier 1 zinc deposit. It's located in the heart of one of the richest mineralization zones in the Congo. This deposit could hold as many as 10 million pounds of high-grade zinc, worth roughly $1 billion at today's prices. Now let's put it all together. This company has a Tier 1 deposit of copper that's worth $11 billion. They have another Tier 1 deposit of platinum worth $145 billion, and another Tier 1 deposit of zinc worth $1 billion. So the grand total for this Tier 1 trifecta could land at $157 billion. This is a no-brainer. I believe, just like Rick, when the majors go on another buying spree, this company will be first on their lists. It also helps that with this deal, Rick is once again partnering with one of the most serially successful mining entrepreneurs around. This man founded and financed Fort Knox Gold, which has generated over 7 million ounces to date. In addition, he was the brains behind the Voisey Bay Nickel Project in northern Labrador, Canada. That deal grew investors' money 130-fold. Add it all up and you have a classic Rick Rule play. He's going big on this deal, investing millions through his personal portfolio, and you have the chance to be a part of it. Now, I don't have to tell you that situations like this are rare. They don't come along every day, even in a rising market, and there are certainly risks involved. However, the upside is impossible to ignore. Just think about it. If you invested $1,000 in this deal and it matches the 8,321% Rick's prior treasure hunt in the Congo yielded, plus you also invested $1,000 in both the uranium and the Kenyan blue whale oil deals that we revealed earlier, and they hit our estimates, you could cash out with $330,980. But we're still just getting started. There are 4 other deals to take part in through this treasure hunt, so let's dive into the next one. Deal number 4 is Ross Beaty's $1 billion power play. Rick's going to tell you about it now.
Occasionally, I do something fashionable. I'm involved right now in alternative energy, and I mean the whole range of alternative energies. Run-of-river hydro, geothermal, wind, solar. I'm involved with a serially successful entrepreneur by the name of Ross Beaty, who again I have known for 40 years. Ross has been successful all through the mining business, but he has also been very successful developing clean energy around the world. One company that he's involved in is the largest foreign owner of geothermal assets in Iceland. Iceland, for those of you who don't know, runs 100% on green energy, hydro and geothermal, and has the largest developed geothermal operations in the world. Very recently, I was in Iceland personally touring these geothermal plants, and I had the ability to soak in the world's largest hot tub in the middle of winter. This hot tub is an overflow of hot water from geothermal operations that allows you to sit outside in the lava, in the snow, in water that's 100 degrees. Truly a spectacular experience, heated for free by the center of the earth. But the story is larger than that. The company is also a large independent producer of run-of-river hydro in British Columbia, Canada. These are small-scale operations that don't flood large amounts of riparian habitat, but instead use very steep flows of water to generate clean, green energy, which are used around North America. In addition to that, the company is involved in the solar business and in the wind power business. What's important is that they are a very large producer of green energy. And it's not just about green power. Once again, this is about a person. Ross Beaty has been serially successful, and I have financed him many times. The first was Equinox Resources, where we financed him at 75 cents with a full warrant, and we sold out to Hecla, if my memory serves me correctly, in excess of $5 per share. But that was just a taste of things to come. After the Hecla transaction, we financed him in Pan American Silver at 50 cents a share, once again for a full warrant. And we were rewarded by a share price that exceeded $45 a share. But the granddaddy of all was financing Ross Beaty in Lumina Copper, a company that was formed to buy out-of-the-money copper assets at the bottom of the last bear market. The first financing there was at $2 a share, once again with a warrant, and the company was liquidated, if my memory serves me correctly, at a price that exceeded $160 per share.
Sometimes all it takes for Rick to say yes to a deal is knowing that he's going to partner with a serially successful entrepreneur. And this is one of those situations. And I think from what he shared, you can see why. Ross Beaty has already made Rick 566% with Equinox Resources, 8,900% with Pan American Silver, and 7,900% with Lumina Copper. In other words, for every $1 million Rick invested in Ross Beaty's companies, he had a clear shot at making over $173 million. So Rick's always ready to back him again. Listen, generally speaking, I'm not a big fan of green energy investments, but I absolutely love this deal, specifically because it involves geothermal and hydro assets. These can be perpetual money machines. With a good geothermal well, you hook up a turbine, and you've got cheap electricity day and night for decades, even hundreds of years. And with a powerful river, you hook up a turbine, and it'll pump out hydroelectricity, lots of it, very cheaply for as long as that river runs. Beaty's newest company has locked up lucrative assets in both of these areas. He's got geothermal wells in Iceland, and he's selling back about 800,000 megawatts of electricity every year to Landsvirkjun. That's Iceland's national utility company. So BD has a guaranteed customer, it's an entire country. He also controls run-of-river power plants and wind farms in Western Canada. And he already has signed a contract to sell hundreds of thousands of megawatts of green energy every year to British Columbia Hydro. And that deal runs through 2045. Again, BD has a guaranteed customer, and he's locked them up for a long time. Same story with the solar power farm in Indiana. He already has a purchase agreement with Duke Energy that runs through 2036, so another guaranteed buyer. Ross Beaty is able to lock in these customers because they know he delivers, and when he wants to make a deal, the deal gets done. And this one is only getting bigger. Right now, Beaty's company has 8 live plants, and already the projections are enormous. They're capable of generating over 3.3 million megawatt hours of clean, green energy every year. That's impressive. And even more impressive, this is still an early-stage company with under $90 million in revenue. However, things are about to kick into high gear. This company is expanding its wind farm in British Columbia. It's set to take 4 additional geothermal wells online in Iceland, and it also controls 2 more geothermal assets in Italy and Peru. When lining up these green energy assets, Ross Beaty played it like the genius that he is. He negotiated joint ventures to offset the bulk of the startup costs, so he's letting the big guys pay for the heavy lifting. And he's using the freed up capital to aggressively acquire more assets. He's moving quickly here. Beaty's firm now has 20 new projects underway in 6 countries, and that could generate as much as 15 million additional megawatt hours a year. But from what I know of Ross Beaty, he won't stop there. If he keeps growing his company at this breakneck pace, I think revenues could explode to over $1 billion. So it shouldn't come as a shock to hear that my conservative target for this deal isn't really conservative at all. If you're to invest $1,000 now, I believe you'd have a shot at cashing out with $20,000. And if you're keeping a running tally, I definitely am, that brings your potential haul from these 4 deals to $350,980. But again, I vetted 7 that are in Rick's personal portfolio. In a minute, you'll learn how you can be a part of all of this. And by now, you probably realize that these deals involve extremely small companies. Several sport market caps under $100 million. One is barely $50 million. And many are trading for pennies a share. These are the types of deals that made Rick Rule one of the wealthiest investors on the planet. Just look at his biggest successes. I'm talking Pan American Silver, Tenke Mining, Arequipa Resources, Altius Minerals, Paladin Energy. All of these companies were sporting market caps that were under $500 million when Rick first backed them. But that's all in the past. Let's talk about your future. These 7 new deals that are in Rick's personal portfolio, by investing alongside him, you could find your fortune too. And wait till you hear about the next one. Get ready to be amazed because deal number 5 involves a gold field so big you can see it from space. Rick, get the ball rolling for us.
Exploration is where the real money can be made in the natural resource business. We're willing to take risk, and so often we get involved in very small companies, taking the risk that leads to a discovery. Literally, a $10,000 drill hole can discover a $10 billion deposit. One company that we're involved with now has made a discovery that we think has that potential. You need to know that they only own 30% of the deposit. The heavy lifting, in fact, all of the capital contribution is being done by a much larger partner, which I like because it reduces some of the financial risk and it also brings in the technical expertise of the much larger company. This discovery has flown under the radar screen because the discovery has taken place in a Middle Eastern country, a country that certainly has some challenges in terms of politics and sociology. The deposit, which we believe is a volcanogenic massive sulfide, contains copper, zinc, and gold. This deposit, the alteration on surface, is so profound that it can be seen from space. What's important to know is that these volcanogenic massive sulfide deposits often occur in clusters. They can be both very large and very rich. This deposit has already proven to be very rich, but we believe that the geologic conditions are permissive for it to be very large. If that is true, this won't just be a mine, it will be many mines, in fact, a district.
Rick and I love each of these deals, but this one has to rank near the top of the pack for me. After all, it's not every day you hear about a gold field that is so big it can be seen from outer space. And better yet, it's controlled by a very, very small exploration company. Their market cap is only $105 million. Rick and I have both been in this industry for a long time, and I can tell you that this type of situation has an extremely predictable outcome. Soon, this tiny miner could become a white-hot, record-smashing buyout target. Their treasure trove was unearthed in the Middle East. Rick and I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. Look at the Fruta del Norte gold field. That was discovered in Ecuador. Ecuador doesn't have a reputation for political and social stability. But that didn't stop a major from swooping in to buy it for $1.2 billion. Same story with the Ventana gold deposit. That's in Colombia. And nobody's confusing Colombia with Kansas. It's still a very dangerous place. But again, a major wasn't scared. They paid $1.5 billion for that discovery. Many consider Fruta del Norte and Ventana to be the greatest gold finds of the century, but they've both been dethroned by this one here in the Middle East. This gold field is located in a mountainous region near the Black Sea. It's also smack dab in the middle of a major fault zone. And all that volcanic activity over the years has yielded gold that many believe is grading out at least 50% higher than both the Fruta del Norte and Ventana fields. Let me be clear, we're at the very early stages of this discovery. At the moment, the stock is trading for 84 cents a share. But I think this situation is going to move very quickly. Here's why. This miner's claim spans an enormous 28 square miles. That's 28 square miles of a field so rich in gold, the glitter of this precious metal can be seen by someone peering down from outer space. But get this miner has only physically explored about a half mile of this discovery. Now check this out. In just this one spot, the miner's indicated gold reserves are an estimated 2.79 million ounces. At today's prices, that would have a value of $3.45 billion. But this deposit has more than just gold in it. The miner is also estimating 166,000 tons of copper are ripe for extraction. That would be good for another $1 billion. And they haven't started mining any of this gold or copper yet, so it's not cooked into their share price. But it's not hard to imagine how big this could be when they start putting this buried treasure on the books. So we have potentially $4.45 billion worth of gold and copper just in this one mine. And this company controls 30% of the discovery. That puts their piece of the action at potentially $1.34 billion. That means the gold and copper in just this half-mile deposit could be 12.7 times more valuable than this miner's current market cap. But that's literally just the beginning. Rick and I aren't banking on this story being about simply one mine. We expect this claim will soon develop into an entire mining district. And as the name suggests, that means that there could be countless deposits discovered across the 28 square miles this exploration firm controls. And this is already coming to fruition. About 0.2 of a mile south of their first discovery, this miner has just made another one. It's circled on this map. They're conservatively estimating reserves of 313,000 ounces of gold in this spot. At market prices, that's another $387 million they could be sitting on. Plus, they're forecasting this new discovery holds another 10,000 tons of copper valued at $60.4 million. That adds up to a potential haul of nearly $5 billion between these first two discoveries, and they still have nearly 27 square miles to explore. If this discovery is confirmed to be a district of mines, just like everybody expects, then there's no telling how high this tiny little stock could go. I anticipate this playing out in a similar fashion to when Rick partnered with mining legend David Lowell in Arequipa Resources. As Rick tells it, David had discovered a massive gold field in politically hot Peru, and Rick paid 28 cents a share for his stake. Less than 2 years later, Barrick Gold snapped up Arequipa for about $30 a share. It was headline material and a 10,614% windfall. Today, we have a gold field so big it can be seen from outer space, and only 1/56th of this new discovery has actually been explored. So the Arequipa Resources payday is my jumping off point for this new deal. That means if you were to invest $1,000, you could cash out with $107,140. And when you add that potential payday to the previous deals, it brings the total haul to an incredible $458,120. Now, I know we've covered a lot of ground and we've done it quickly. Rick and I have shared high-level details for 5 of the 7 deals I've vetted from his personal portfolio. Admittedly, we've held some critical information back. And there's a reason for that. These are tiny companies, and most are trading for pennies a share. And for stocks this size, often all it takes to send their prices through the roof is a rosy press release. So there's no way we could disclose their identities to Money Morning's 1.5 million daily readers. However, you can be part of a very small circle who will have the chance to invest alongside Rick in these deals, locking up stakes in these small companies at dramatically undervalued share prices. What I'm about to offer you is nothing less than a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I'm inviting you to join a brand new, independent research service my team has created. billionaires and investors whose success has made them household names. So frankly, I was stunned when he told me he was willing to open up his personal. That's why we're only going to allow 500 people to become founding members today. This is going to be extremely hands-on. There's going to be a lot of communication, a lot of research, and we want to make sure that everybody who joins is able to take full advantage of it. So I don't anticipate any spots being available in a few hours, much less tomorrow. I mean, imagine being granted access to the personal portfolio of one of the wealthiest, most successful investors in modern history, and also being given the chance to invest alongside him in his private deals. This is unprecedented, and we're going to hit the ground running across the globe. They've discovered lucrative energy fields that could produce for decades, and they have all the right connections with the local governments. The special terms Rick has negotiated for these deals, I believe, could make him billions. And if you were to invest just $1,000 into each of these companies, I estimate you could potentially cash out with $492,120. To refresh your memory, deal number 1 is Paladin 2.0. Deal number 2 is the Kenyan Blue Whale. Deal number 3, the Tier 1 trifecta. Deal number 4 is Ross Beaty's $1 billion power play. And deal number 5 is the gold field so big you can see it from space. Now, Rick and I didn't have time to cover the next 2 deals during today's presentation, so I'm going to hit the big points right now. Deal number 6 is the Danube River Gold Discovery. This deal involves a small exploration company that controls what could be another truly historic gold find. It's located along the bank of a tributary for the Danube River in southeastern Europe. And this tiny miner just acquired the deposit 9 months ago. And in its early stages, the potential is off the charts. Preliminary tests have found concentrations of extractable gold spanning from the surface of this deposit all the way down 1,477 meters below. Now, to understand why that's incredible, picture the Empire State Building. Now picture 4 of them stacked on top of each other. That's how far this gold deposit reaches underground. Based on my conversations with Rick and my own analysis, I estimate this deal could return 1,700%. And finally, we have deal number 7, the Ancient Incan Silver Expedition. This is the very definition of a treasure hunt. An incredible silver deposit has been unearthed. It was found in South America, in the heart of a region once ruled by the ancient Incas. The initial estimates are coming in at 29.4 million ounces, and that would put the low-end value of this deposit at $514.5 million. However, silver is extremely underpriced right now. If, as I expect, we see an aggressive bull market, a 1,500% return could be solidly in our wheelhouse. If you were to invest just $1,000 into each of these 7 deals and they hit our targets, you could cash out with $492,120. If you're able to allocate a little over $2,000 to these deals, you could become a millionaire. 4 of these deposits. I want you to experience this treasure hunt up close. Now, when vetting these deals, it was critical I remained impartial, so I haven't, nor will I ever, take a financial stake in them personally. Having said that, though, Rick has invested tens of millions of dollars of his own money into each of these deals. He's partnered with the founders of these companies, so their success is of the greatest importance to him. And after seeing these opportunities up close, I can't stress this enough. Their upside is absolutely enormous. These deals represent a near-identical roadmap Rick followed years back to initially earn his fortune. The same partners, the same natural resources priced at deep discounts, the same types of discoveries. That's why I'm confident the potential to turn $1,000 stakes into over $492,000 is there. However, and I've said this a few times, but I don't want there to be any confusion, these opportunities are highly speculative. Some of these deals are priced at pennies a share, so my team has also drafted comprehensive risk assessments for you to review. And partnering in these lucrative discoveries. Simply put, he has the Midas touch. And as he adds more deals to his personal portfolio, like the billionaire Lundin family, David Lowell, and Ross Beaty come across a new discovery, one of their first phone calls is to Rick Rule. They want him as a partner, and I want you to hear from them. It's a serious opportunity, and I'm not going to tell you it's cheap to join because it's not. They're so small and that the Rick Rule Alliance is so hands-on and comprehensive is why there are only 500 spots available today. First come, first served. After we reach this limit, we'll have no choice but to turn down your request and add you to the waiting list.